All right, guys, how's it going? It's the Eastbayanglers. Today we're talking about Los Vaqueros. We're talking about Los Vaqueros, located around Livermore, California area. Today we want to talk all about striper fishing there. We want to break it down. It's the striper season, and people are getting on a lot of striper right now. It's that time of year, and we figured we'd do a video really quick talking about, a lot of our experiences at Los Vaqueros, what baits we used, where we fished, what we did, the gear we used, etc., to hook into the striper we did. A lot of times you go out there and you can get a dozen. It's pretty much like a guarantee that you get a dozen shakers per person. Some days are better. Some days, you get keepers mixed in, and some days you get a lot more than a dozen fish. You can get a couple dozen fish. You can get 2-3 dozen per angler. A lot of shakers though would be involved, but a lot of fishing, a lot of fun. And if you guys haven't caught striped bass, man, they are a heck of a fight, and they are full of fight. So let's talk about the time to fish for them. Generally, you're going to want to focus for them in the spring and the fall. So February, January, maybe March, April, maybe, first week of May kind of shuts down, but you can still pick them up. They're generally going to go a lot deeper during the summer, and then as the fall comes around, they go a lot shallower and they cover a lot of water and move around a lot. And so when I'm fishing Los Vaqueros, if I'm on the bank, there's some docks they have that are really ideal. They allow you to hook up into fish, and there's a lot of snakes out there, so you don't have to worry about the snakes. And generally the only issue with the dock is it gets crowded, and you got to be around a lot of people, which is not exactly why we all go fishing. So the other thing you're going to want to consider is, what are you using? What are you guys using, and what do you guys need to use? For the most part, is you guys need to stick with cut bait. A lot of sardines, anchovies, mackerel, squid, chicken liver also works, as well as shrimp, crawfish, whole or just the back end, crack it, and those all work really well for striped bass at Los Vaqueros. Now, if you guys are one of those anglers that, you just have a hard time bait fishing, or you get off a lot more when you catch a fish, when you're actually essentially, working the lure and all that, you guys are going to want to focus on those big swim baits. You're going to want to focus on, anywhere from 6-inch all the way to 14 inches, trout, shad pattern, any kind of bait fish pattern should do pretty well. You're going to want to throw it out there. Anything that looks like trout, really, though, is ideal. And get out there and chuck those around where you find, the high percentage areas. And I guarantee you, within a short amount, of time, given that you're fishing in the spring or the fall, you will hook up into some monster size striped bass in Los Vaqueros. You will also hook up on some qualities and some quality fish, some shaker fish, or some, but I mean, you're going to up the size on average. When you go to those big swim baits over bait fishing on the shoreline, you're going to go for 1 to 5 bites a day instead of maybe a couple dozen. But those 1 to 5 bites are going to be big bites. You're going to get big fish, or you're going to have an opportunity at big fish that for the most part normally just wouldn't be as interested, in a lot of the stuff that people fish on the bank. If those fish if the striped bass has the option, it will gorge on trout. And if it has the option, it will gorge on other fish before it gorges on cut bait. So generally, keep in mind that fish eat fish first and foremost, and after that they'll kind of eat whatever they have to. But yeah, nothing quite tastes better than something that's actually, you know, I mean, cut bait is dead, so a live fish would taste a lot better than, you know, some cut bait that's, you know, you buy chicken liver, you buy mackerel at the store, you really have no idea how long that it's been frozen, if there's been some type of additives to preserve it for a longer period of time, and how all those different things really affect, you know, the bite. A lot of times I notice that if I can get fresh fish and fish with that fish, cut bait when I catch smaller fish. So if you guys can get into some small panfish there or just anything and cut it up, use that cut bait, it's going to be way more effective because it's fresh. It's got the fresh oils, the fresh scent. It's like a fresh kill right there. And like I said, they prefer fish. So that's one of the ways you're going to be able to target those giant fish. And in general, this is a really fun place to fish. There's a lot of shoreline to walk, and you can go on and on and on. A lot of times what you really want to do is just try to find a spot that has deeper water, very, very close to the shallow water. More or less, make sure that those, you know, if you're in an area that's somewhat shallow, you want to make sure that it tapers very fast off into deep water. That's what these stripers tend to do, is hang out in a lot, especially the big ones, in transitional areas where the depth goes very fast from deep to shallow, or the opposite. So it just gives them a way to escape. They feel a lot safer knowing they can dart off into that deeper water. So today we're talking striped bass, and I hope we help some of you guys. Obviously, some of you guys, you're hardcore striped bass guys. You probably know a good amount of this information, if not all of it. But for a lot of you guys that don't striped bass fish a lot, this information is very important. Going out there and, you know, throwing the right baits are going to get you the best success. So, if, you know, you want to experiment, don't be afraid to throw jerk baits and lipless crankbaits. They're very good. Let's talk about the LV 500 by Lucky Craft, or let's talk about some of the Jackal jerk baits. Very effective. So if you are into that particular bite, you know, you could get away with something along those lines, but you would really have to imitate, you'd have to throw a giant jerk bait imitating a trout, or a lipless crankbait that imitates some type of natural bait fish that's wild there. So keep all that in mind, guys. Get on some striper this year. And if you guys have any questions about stripers or the lake itself, let us know. You guys, it gets windy out there. It gets real gnarly, and getting in a boat is awesome. Having a boat gives you really good advantages when you fish there, but it's also costly. And I can't tell you, like, but a lot of your time on the water is going to be miserable because of the wind. So I would say half of the days you rent the boat, expect it to be uncomfortable as far as wind. And the other, you know, 50-50, it's you get a nicer day, but even a nicer day out there is not like a normal day somewhere. Keep in mind the wind is treacherous, and it can make your trip end literally any moment on the boat or on the bank. But if you're going to rent the boat, just make sure you've done the best you can to research that day, and hopefully you don't get any winds. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming, trying to help you guys get on some.